The stars looked different from the observation deck of the International Space Station. Paul Collins floated near the thick glass window, his eyes fixed on a small flicker of light near Jupiter. It wasn't supposed to be there. "Lisa, come take a look at this," he called to his crewmate. Lisa Wright pushed away from her workstation and glided across the module. Her dark hair was tied back in a neat ponytail that floated slightly upward in the zero gravity. "What am I looking at?" she asked, squinting through the window. "That light near Jupiter. It's been there for 3 days now. Too stable to be a comet, too bright to be a new moon." Lisa frowned. "Have you reported it?" Paul nodded. "Houston says they're investigating, but something feels off about their response." The truth was that every major government on Earth had already noticed the anomaly. In underground facilities across the globe, scientists and military personnel were working around the clock to understand what had appeared at the edge of their solar system. At NASA headquarters, Alan Rogers hunched over his computer, rubbing his tired eyes. For 72 hours straight, he had been working to decode a signal that was being broadcast from the mysterious object. The message repeated every 9 minutes exactly. "Sir, I think I've got something," he called to his supervisor. The older man walked over quickly, coffee sloshing from his cup. "What is it?" Ellen pointed to his screen. "It's a message. 3 sentences. We are watching. We are judging. We see your violence." Across the Pacific Ocean, in a secure bunker beneath the Japanese countryside, Captain Diane Lee received the translated message on her secure terminal. As head of the newly formed United Earth Defense Initiative, she had been preparing for this moment for years, though few believed it would ever come. "Begin Protocol Sentinel," she ordered her staff. "I want every stealth satellite we have repositioned. If they're watching us, we're going to watch them right back." In orbit around Jupiter, the Hegemony assessment vessel remained stationary. Inside, Admiral Zorek stood before the Council's holographic projections, his scaled skin reflecting the blue light of the communications array. "The humans are primitive but dangerous," he reported. "Their history is filled with constant warfare. They split the atom and immediately used it as a weapon. They reached their moon and then abandoned further exploration to build missiles." Council member Therax fluttered her wing membranes in the gesture of dismissal. "All young species are violent. They will mature. This one is different," Zorek insisted. "They do not fight for resources alone. They fight for ideas, for territory that they cannot even inhabit. Sometimes they fight simply because they have always fought." The eldest council member's hologram leaned forward. "What do you recommend, Admiral?" "Quarantine. Complete isolation until they destroy themselves or evolve beyond their violent nature. Contact would be catastrophic." The debate continued for hours, as was the Hegemony way. Decision by consensus, careful deliberation, thoughtful analysis. In their 5,000 years of expansion, they had encountered many species. Some were welcomed into the galactic community. Others were guided slowly toward civilization. A few were contained for their own good and the safety of others. The humans, they decided, would need careful study before any final judgment could be made. What the Hegemony did not know, could not know, was that every word of their debate was being recorded. The stealth technology that Captain Lee had deployed was based on principles the aliens couldn't detect because they had never considered them. In the White House Situation Room, President Susan Carter listened to the alien deliberations with growing anger. "They're talking about us like we're animals in a zoo," she said quietly. General Kyle Martinez stood at attention nearby. "What are your orders, Madam President?" She looked around the room at the faces of Earth's finest military and scientific minds. "They think they have years to decide our fate. They're wrong. Begin Operation Trojan Horse. While they talk about whether to start a war with us, we'll bring the war to them." Across Earth's hidden shipyards and secret bases, humanity prepared for a fight the enemy didn't know was coming. The aliens continued their careful debate, unaware that every passing hour brought them closer to the moment when humanity would reveal just how dangerous they truly were. 3 weeks passed since the first contact. The hegemony had moved their primary assessment vessel closer to Earth, settling into orbit around Mars. They believed this position would allow them to observe humans without being detected. They were wrong. Captain Laura Bennett floated silently in her stealth suit, less than 200 meters from the alien ship. The special coating on her suit bent light around her, making her nearly invisible against the blackness of space. The oxygen recycler on her back made no sound. She had been in position for 6 hours, placing tiny monitoring devices on the hull of the alien vessel. Last one in place, she whispered into her comm, "Ready for extraction." A small craft, darker than the space around it, eased toward her position. The pilot, Sam Green, had been flying stealth missions for 15 years. If anyone could get them back to the hidden base on Phobos without being detected, it was him. Back on Earth, Director William Davis sat in a plain office that masked its true importance. The walls were lined with screens showing information from the monitoring devices that Bennett and her team had placed. Every conversation, every data transfer, every movement of the alien vessel was now being recorded and analyzed. "What have we learned?" asked President Carter, who had arrived without warning. Davis stood quickly. "Madam President, we've confirmed they call themselves the hegemony. They're an alliance of 15 different species that have been expanding through the galaxy for thousands of years. Are they hostile?" Davis hesitated. "Not exactly. They're arrogant. They see themselves as guardians of civilization. They believe younger species need to be guided or contained until they're ready to join galactic society. And they think we're not ready." "No, ma'am. They're particularly concerned about our history of conflict. The hegemony hasn't fought a real war in over 1,000 years. They consider us dangerously unpredictable." The president walked to the window, looking out at the Washington Monument in the distance. "What are they planning?" "They're still debating. Their commander Kellner wants to establish a permanent presence in our system to monitor us. Others are arguing for a more hands-off approach. Either way, they plan to prevent us from developing faster-than-light travel." "So they talk while we prepare," the president said quietly. "How long until Dr. Peterson's project is ready?" "The prototype ship will be complete in 4 months. The quantum drive is already functioning in tests." On Mars, the hegemony assessment team continued their methodical analysis. Commander Kellner, a tall being with crystalline growths instead of hair, addressed his subordinates in the ship's meeting chamber. "The humans have noticed our presence as expected, but their response has been subdued. Their planetary governments appear to be in disagreement about how to proceed." Officer Nelka, whose blue-tinged skin glowed faintly in the dim light, brought up a holographic display of Earth's communications. "They are a fractured species. Their transmissions show at least 30 major powers competing for resources and influence. A primitive social structure," Kellner agreed. "They will require centuries of guidance before they're ready for membership in the hegemony." Admiral Zorak was right to recommend containment. What Kellner couldn't see was the carefully crafted deception being fed to them. Earth's governments had united in secret, presenting a false image of division and technological backwardness to the watching aliens. In a facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Frank Peterson made the final adjustments to a device that would change humanity's future. The quantum entanglement drive hummed softly as it powered up for the first time. "Begin test sequence," he instructed his team. The drive glowed blue, then white. Measurements appeared on screens around the room. The scientists began to smile, then to laugh, and embrace each other. "It works," Peterson whispered. "We can match their speed." Above them, the ocean hid their celebration from watching eyes. The hegemony continued their patient observation, unaware that with each passing day, humanity moved closer to bringing war to their doorstep. While they talked about containing Earth, humans prepared to break free. On Phobos, Captain Bennett received the news about the drive test. She looked through the viewport of the hidden base toward the alien ship in orbit around Mars. "They have no idea what's coming," she said to no one in particular. 6 months after first contact, the hegemony finally reached a decision. Their Grand Council had debated for weeks, analyzing every aspect of human civilization. They believed they understood humanity. They were mistaken. The message came on a Tuesday morning. Every television, radio, and digital screen on Earth displayed the same image. An alien with pale blue skin and eyes that seemed too large for its narrow face. People of Earth, I am Ambassador Rectal of the Galactic Hegemony, the alien said in perfect English. We have studied your civilization and have determined the path forward for your species. In the Oval Office, President Carter watched with her military advisors. Her face revealed nothing, but her hands gripped the edge of her desk. The hegemony has existed for 50,000 of your years, Rectal continued. We have guided many young species to maturity. Your kind has potential, but you are dangerous to yourselves, and would be dangerous to others if allowed to spread beyond your solar system. General Martinez leaned toward the president. They're about to drop the hammer. Therefore, the following containment protocols will be implemented, the alien announced. First, Earth and its solar system will remain isolated. No human ships will be permitted to travel beyond the orbit of Pluto. Second, all research into faster-than-light travel will cease immediately. Third, a hegemony outpost will be established on your moon to monitor compliance. The alien's face softened slightly. This is not punishment. This is guidance. In time, perhaps several centuries, humanity may be ready for limited contact with other civilizations. Until then, you will remain contained for the safety of all. The transmission ended. For several seconds, the room remained silent. They expect an answer, General Martinez said. The president nodded. Get me a direct channel to their ship. Minutes later, she faced a screen showing Commander Kellner. Commander, I speak for all Earth's nations, she said, her voice steady and respectful. We are disappointed by your decision, but understand your concerns. Humanity accepts the terms of the containment. The alien's expression didn't change, but something like satisfaction radiated from him. A wise choice, President Carter. Resistance would have been problematic. After the call ended, General Martinez looked at the president with surprise. You're actually agreeing to this? Of course not, she replied, standing up. But they expect compliance followed by anger, protests, and eventually acceptance. So we'll give them exactly what they expect to see. She pressed a button on her desk. Send in Dr. Peterson. Frank Peterson entered carrying a small metal case. His eyes were red from lack of sleep, but excitement radiated from him. It's ready, he said without preamble. The virus works. We tested it on the communications equipment we salvaged from their scout ship. And they won't detect it? The president asked. No, it embeds itself in their routine data transfers. Once it's in their main systems, we'll have access to everything. Navigation, weapons, life support. In orbit around Mars, the hegemony continued their methodical preparation for long-term observation of Earth. Engineer Trask was explaining the construction timeline for the lunar base to Commander Kellner. The foundation modules will be in place within 30 days. The observation equipment. He stopped as a console chimed. We're receiving a data packet from Central Command. Updates to the containment protocols. Download and implement immediately, Kellner ordered. The humans have accepted our terms, but they are unpredictable. We must maintain strict adherence to procedure. The engineer nodded and accepted the transmission. Neither alien noticed the subtle change in the system's operation parameters as Dr. Peterson's virus silently spread through their computer networks. On Earth, in a hidden facility beneath the New Mexico desert, Captain Ryan Foster climbed into the cockpit of humanity's first true warship. The UES Vengeance looked nothing like the rockets or shuttles that had carried humans to space before. Its sleek black hull absorbed light rather than reflecting it. Its weapons remained hidden behind seamless panels. Pre-flight checks complete, his co-pilot, Maria Alvarez, reported. Quantum drive is online. Foster nodded. Prepare for launch. Operation Trojan Horse is now active. Across the planet, 11 other ships identical to the Vengeance prepared to leave their hidden bunkers. While the hegemony talked about containing humanity, humans prepared to break their chains permanently. The hegemony established their monitoring outpost on the far side of the moon 30 days after delivering their ultimatum. They chose this location believing it would prevent humans from approaching undetected. They were wrong about that, just as they had been wrong about so many things. From their base, they watched as protests erupted across Earth. Humans waved signs demanding freedom from alien oppression. Leaders made angry speeches. Then, as the hegemony had predicted, the protests gradually subsided. Humans returned to their daily lives. The aliens saw exactly what Earth wanted them to see. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, General Kyle Martinez stood in the command center of humanity's largest secret facility. Around him, hundreds of personnel monitored screens showing different aspects of Operation Trojan Horse. One wall displayed the construction of the UES Defiance, the 12th and largest of Earth's new warships. "How soon can she be ready?" Martins asked. Chief Engineer Olivia West looked up from her tablet. "The hull is complete. We're installing the quantum drive now. 7 days, maybe 6 if we push the crews." Martinez nodded. "Push them. The virus has been in the hegemony systems for nearly 3 weeks. We need to move before they detect it." In her laboratory on the other side of the facility, Dr. Nancy Phillips made final adjustments to a device that looked like a small silver sphere. 2 armed guards stood by the door, a testament to the importance of her work. "Is that the prototype?" Martins asked as he entered. She nodded without looking up. "The quantum entanglement drive, miniaturized version. Based on what we learned from their systems, I've made improvements. It's twice as efficient as their drives now." "Will it work?" Finally, she looked up. "It already has. We sent a probe to Alpha Centauri yesterday. 4 light years in under 10 minutes, General." For the first time in months, Martinez smiled. On the hegemony's lunar base, Monitor Drex filed his daily report to Commander Kelnar. The blue-skinned alien took pride in his thoroughness. Nothing escaped his attention. "Human activities remain within expected parameters," he reported. "Their space activities are limited to maintaining their orbital stations and satellites. No attempts to approach our base have been detected." Kellner made a gesture of approval. "Continue observation. The containment phase is proceeding as planned." What neither alien knew was that the UES Defiance had already completed its first mission. Using the entanglement drive, the ship had approached the lunar base, staying within its sensor blind spots. Special Forces operators had exited the ship, placed surveillance devices throughout the base, and returned without leaving a trace. Every word, every plan, every communication was now being fed directly to Earth's military command. In a hidden bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, President Carter met with her War Council. The room was secure against any possible surveillance, alien or human. "What have we learned?" she asked. Intelligence Director Steve Warren gestured at the display showing the hegemony's star charts. "Their home system is here, about 60 light years from Earth. They have colonized or control approximately 40 systems in total. 40 systems against 1 planet." Someone muttered. "It's not as bad as it sounds," Warren continued. "Most of their ships are for transport or trade. Their military vessels are few and designed for show rather than actual combat. They haven't fought a real war in over 1,000 years." "And the virus?" Dr. Peterson stepped forward. "It's fully integrated into their systems. We can access everything: navigation, communications, weapons, life support. When the time comes, we can shut them down completely." The president looked around the table. "Then we're ready. The hegemony came here expecting to find a primitive, divided species that would accept containment after some token resistance. We've given them exactly what they expected to see." She stood, her face resolute. "Now it's time to show them who we really are." Operation Trojan Horse enters its final phase tomorrow. While they're still debating how best to cage us, we'll bring the fight to their doorstep. Around the table, Heads nodded in agreement. Humanity had been planning this moment since the first alien message arrived. The hegemony thought they were dealing with a primitive species barely worth their attention. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. As the meeting ended, General Martinez approached the president. "The Defiance will be ready at 600 tomorrow. Captain Foster and his crew are standing by." "Good," she replied. "It's time we showed the galaxy why you should never corner a species that has spent its entire history learning how to fight." The UES Defiance moved silently through space, its black hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Inside the ship, Captain Ryan Foster reviewed the mission with his crew. The data they had gathered from the hegemony systems had revealed crucial weaknesses that humanity could exploit. "The hegemony hasn't fought a real war in over 1,000 years, Foster explained, pointing to the alien ship schematics on the display. "Their weapon systems are advanced, but designed for ceremony rather than actual combat. Their crews are not trained for battle." His second-in-command, Maria Alvarez, nodded. "Their shields operate on predictable energy frequencies. Once we know the pattern, we can bypass them completely." In another section of the ship, computer specialist Eric Mason worked on the final version of his virus. The code scrolled across his screen as he refined the algorithm that would disable the hegemony's defenses at the critical moment. "How's it coming?" asked Lieutenant Olivia Garcia, peering over his shoulder. "Almost perfect," Mason replied without looking up. "This version doesn't just shut down their systems. It gives us control of them. When we strike, we'll be able to turn their own weapons against any ships that try to respond." On Earth, Dr. Grace Wilson led a team testing the hegemony shield technology. They had built a replica based on the data stolen from the alien systems. The shield hummed as it generated an energy barrier around a small test drone. "Start the electromagnetic pulse sequence," Wilson ordered. A technician activated a device that looked like a small satellite dish. It emitted no visible beam, but instruments showed energy flowing toward the shield. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the shield flickered and disappeared. Wilson smiled. "It works. Their shields are vulnerable to specific frequencies in our EM spectrum. Record everything and transmit the data to the fleet." In orbit around Mars, the hegemony remained oblivious to the human activities. Commander Kellner chaired yet another meeting about containment protocols for Earth. "The observation data shows humans are adapting to our presence as expected," reported Monitor Drex. "There are still occasional protests, but most have accepted the reality of their situation." "Excellent," Kellner replied. The Council was concerned they might be more difficult to manage. It seems Admiral Zorek's fears were exaggerated. Unknown to Kellner, every word of this meeting was being transmitted directly to President Carter's war room. She stood surrounded by military leaders, listening to the aliens discuss humanity's future as if it were theirs to decide. "They still have no idea," General Martinez said quietly. "And that's our advantage," the president replied. "Our entire history they see as a weakness. Our conflicts, our wars, our constant competition. They think it makes us primitive. Instead, it prepared us for this moment." Martinez finished. In deep space, beyond the orbit of Pluto, the 11 more Earth ships waited in formation. Each vessel was crewed by the best military personnel from nations that had once been enemies. Russian weapons officers worked alongside American pilots. Chinese engineers monitored systems next to European technicians. For the first time in human history, Earth stood truly united. Aboard the UES Vengeance, Commander Sophia Chen received the transmission from the Defiance. "Captain Foster reports all surveillance in place. The virus has been fully uploaded to all hegemony systems. We're cleared to proceed to Phase 2. Admiral Ben Miller nodded. "Transmit to all ships. Prepare for jump to hegemony central coordinates. We strike at their heart." The 12 ships activated their quantum drives simultaneously. Space seemed to fold around them as they disappeared from the solar system. In the hegemony's home system, 60 light-years from Earth, the Grand Council gathered for their quarterly meeting. Thousands of representatives from 15 species filled the massive chamber. On the agenda, the final approval of Earth's containment protocols. Admiral Zorak approached the speaking platform. Honored representatives, I come before you to discuss the human question. While my initial assessment recommended caution, I believe Commander Kellner's reports show the situation is well in hand. The humans have accepted their place. As he continued his speech, none of the aliens noticed the small anomalies appearing in their system's security network. One by one, defense platforms went offline for routine maintenance. Sensor arrays experienced calibration errors. The hegemony's mighty fleet, reduced to a ceremonial force after centuries of peace, stood blind and vulnerable. The stage was set. Operation Trojan Horse had reached its final phase. While the hegemony talked about war, humanity prepared to bring it to their door. In the Grand Council chamber of the hegemony, Admiral Zorak continued his speech. Thousands of representatives from 15 different species listened as he outlined the containment protocols for Earth. The humans have shown remarkable adaptability, he said, his scaled skin reflecting the blue light of the chamber. While initially resistant, they have accepted our guidance. This proves our approach is correct. Given time, perhaps a few centuries, they may evolve beyond their violent tendencies. The representatives nodded in agreement. Many had been concerned about this new species with its bloody history. The reports from Earth had eased their fears. I recommend we proceed with the full containment plan, Zorak concluded. A permanent monitoring station on their moon, regular patrols of their system, and immediate intervention should they attempt to develop faster-than-light technology. As the Admiral spoke, no one noticed the small anomalies appearing throughout the hegemony defense network. Sensor arrays reported routine maintenance issues. Communication relays experienced minor delays. Defense platforms adjusted their positions for calibration purposes. Are there any objections to Admiral Zorak's recommendation? Asked the Council Elder, a being so ancient its original form was barely recognizable beneath layers of life extension technology. Before anyone could respond, the space above the council chamber shimmered. 12 ships appeared from nowhere, their black hulls absorbing the light around them. For a moment, the council chamber fell silent. No alarms sounded. No warnings flashed on screens. The defense network, compromised by Eric Mason's virus, remained silent. What is the meaning of this? The Council Elder demanded. The largest of the human vessels moved forward. On its side, a name was written in simple white letters, UES Vengeance. Inside the Vengeance, Admiral Ben Miller stood on the bridge. Open a channel to their council chamber, he ordered. Let's introduce ourselves properly. On the screens in the council chamber, a human face appeared. The aliens had never seen a living human before, only images from Earth's broadcasts. I am Admiral Ben Miller of Earth, he said, his voice calm but firm. Your containment of our planet is over. Admiral Zorak pushed forward to the communication panel. This is impossible. You cannot have faster-than-light capability. You cannot be here. Miller smiled slightly. Yet here we are. While you spent months talking about how to cage us, we studied your technology. While you debated our future, we decided it for ourselves. Our defense systems will destroy you, Zorak threatened, though uncertainty crept into his voice. Your defense systems are under our control, Miller replied. Right now, our ships are in position around your key military installations. We could destroy them with a single command. Panic spread through the council chamber. Representatives turned to their communication devices, trying to contact their military commanders. None of the calls connected. What do you want? The council elder asked, its voice carrying the weight of thousands of years of hegemony rule. We want recognition, Miller answered. Not as a primitive species to be contained, but as equals. We want an end to your containment policy. We want open borders and free trade with all species. And if we refuse, Zorak demanded. In response, Miller pressed a button on his command chair. Throughout the hegemony capital, Their weapons platforms turned and aimed at their own buildings. The virus had given humans complete control. "We don't want war," Miller said. "Unlike you, we know its cost. We've paid it many times throughout our history. But make no mistake, if forced to fight, we will. And we will win." The council elder raised a gnarled hand to silence Zorak before he could respond. "You have demonstrated your capability, Admiral Miller. Perhaps we underestimated your species." "A common mistake," Miller replied. "One that has cost many Earth species their existence. Those who underestimated humans rarely had the opportunity to correct their error." The elder's ancient eyes studied the human on the screen. "You could destroy us now. Why don't you? Because unlike what you believe about us, we don't seek violence for its own sake. We're offering you peace, but on equal terms, not as jailers and prisoners." Throughout the chamber, the representatives of the hegemony looked at each other in confusion and fear. For thousands of years, they had been the undisputed power in the galaxy. In a single day, a species they had dismissed as primitive had brought war to their doorstep and now offered peace. The council elder slowly bowed its head. "We will hear your terms, Admiral Miller of Earth." News of what happened in the Hegemony Council chamber spread quickly. For the first time in thousands of years, the great galactic hegemony had been forced to negotiate. The species that had been contained or controlled by the hegemony watched with growing interest and hope. On the Vengeance, Admiral Miller led the human delegation in discussions with the council elder and representatives from the major hegemony species. Captain Ryan Foster and Dr. Grace Wilson joined him, providing technical expertise when needed. "Your terms are unusual," the council elder said after hearing the human proposals. "Most species we encounter seek territory or resources. We have what we need," Miller replied. "What we want is freedom, not just for ourselves, but for all species under your control." Foster stepped forward. "Our history is filled with empires that claim to guide lesser peoples toward civilization. It never ended well for anyone involved." The blue-skinned representative from the Narek species leaned forward. "You would have us simply release all contained species. Many are violent, primitive. Like us." Wilson interrupted. "You called us primitive because we fight wars. But in one day we took control of your defense systems and brought our ships to your homeworld undetected. Perhaps your definition of primitive needs revision." In another part of the hegemony capital, Captain Laura Bennett led a small team through the Central Records facility. Her stealth suit was unnecessary now. They moved openly, escorted by nervous hegemony officials. "What exactly are you looking for?" asked their guide, a tall insectoid being named Kelth. "Information about all species currently under hegemony containment," Bennett answered. "Locations, assessment reports, everything." Kelth hesitated. "Some of that information is restricted even to most hegemony citizens." Bennett stopped and turned to face him. "Not anymore." Back on Earth, President Carter addressed the United Nations. Representatives from every nation stood and applauded as she took the podium. Behind her, on a large screen, a live feed showed the human ships in the hegemony capital. "Today marks a new chapter in human history," she said. "For the first time, we stand united not just with each other, but potentially with other intelligent species across our galaxy." In a hidden chamber beneath the UN building, Captain John Howard studied the files Bennett had sent from the hegemony records. The list of contained species was longer than anyone had expected. 37 civilizations kept isolated on their home planets, just as the hegemony had planned for Earth. "We can reach the closest one in 3 days using the quantum drive," Howard told his team. "The Krith have been contained for over 5 centuries. According to these reports, they developed radio technology, and the hegemony immediately established a quarantine. Just like they planned for us," said his communications officer, Natalie King. Howard nodded. "Exactly like us. And I bet they'll be just as happy about it as we were." In the Hegemony Council chamber, negotiations continued. Admiral Zorak had been removed from the discussions after attempting to argue for military action against the humans. The remaining representatives were beginning to understand the new reality. "You must understand our concern," said the representative from the Voltar Concordat. "For thousands of years, we have maintained peace through careful management of developing species, and in the process, you've denied them their right to determine their own future," Miller replied. "That ends today." The council elder raised a gnarled hand. "We require time to consider these demands and consult with our governments." Miller smiled politely. "Of course. You have 24 hours. During that time, our ships will remain in position, and your defense systems will remain under our control." As the representatives filed out of the chamber, Captain Foster approached Admiral Miller. "Do you think they'll agree?" "They don't have much choice," Miller replied. "But that's not what concerns me." He gestured toward the data pad in Foster's hand. "What did we learn from the records?" Foster's expression darkened. "The containment program goes back much further than they admitted. Some species have been isolated for thousands of years, and the hegemony has been harvesting resources from their systems the entire time." Miller's jaw tightened. "Then our work has just begun. Across the galaxy, on dozens of contained worlds, the inhabitants went about their lives, unaware that everything was about to change. After centuries of isolation, they would soon learn they were not alone, and that another young species had done what they could not. They had brought war to the hegemony's door, and in doing so, might have brought freedom to the stars. 1 year after humanity's confrontation with the hegemony, representatives from 39 species gathered on Earth. The Grand Assembly Hall had been built specifically for this historic meeting. The curved glass ceiling revealed the stars above, stars that were no longer distant and unreachable, but pathways to new allies and friends. President Carter stood at the central podium. Around her sat delegates from worlds that until recently had never known of each other's existence. The Krith with their crystalline skin, the Voltar with their 4 eyes and deep voices, the Tressan who communicated through changing skin colors, and dozens more, each unique, each finally free. 1 year ago, we believed we were alone in facing the hegemony's containment, she said. We now know that wasn't true. For thousands of years, the hegemony isolated developing civilizations from each other. They claimed it was for our protection. Today, we know it was for their benefit. Admiral Miller stood nearby, watching the assembled delegates. Next to him, Captain Ryan Foster observed the security monitors. Earth had become the center of what news agencies were calling the Liberation Alliance. "Did you ever think we'd end up here?" Foster asked quietly. Miller shook his head. "When we first detected their ships, I thought we were preparing for war, not founding a new galactic order." On the other side of the hall, Dr. Grace Wilson sat with a group of scientists from 7 different worlds. They spoke different languages, had different biology, came from different environments, but they all shared the same joy of discovery, the same passion for understanding the universe. "The quantum resonance theory your people developed might revolutionize our understanding of faster-than-light travel," said Teln, a physicist from the Krith homeworld. "If we combine it with our crystalline focusing technology, we could reach the Andromeda galaxy within months instead of years," Wilson finished, excitement clear in her voice. Across the hall, Captain Laura Bennett met with military leaders from the newly liberated worlds. Unlike the hegemony, the Liberation Alliance didn't forbid the sharing of defense technology. Instead, they worked together to create systems that would protect all member worlds. "The stealth technology that let us approach their ships undetected can be adapted to your vessels," Bennett explained to a Tressan commander. "Your natural ability to change colors actually inspired some of our recent improvements." The Tressan's skin shifted to a deep blue, their expression of gratitude. At the center of the hall, President Carter continued her address. "Today, we sign the Earth Accords. This agreement establishes the principles that will guide our new alliance. Freedom for all species to develop according to their own cultures, open exchange of knowledge and technology, mutual defense against any who would threaten our liberty. She looked around at the assembled delegates. The hegemony believed that younger species must be contained and controlled. They feared our differences and our conflicts. What they never understood was that these differences, these struggles, are what make us strong. In a corner of the hall, Admiral Zorak watched the proceedings. After the hegemony's collapse, he had been one of the few former leaders to accept the invitation to Earth. His once proud posture was now humbled, but his eyes remained sharp and observant. Captain John Howard approached him. "What do you think of our barbaric gathering, Admiral?" Zorak turned slowly. "I was wrong about your kind, Captain. We all were. We saw your conflicts as weakness. We never considered they might be strength." Howard nodded. "For thousands of years, your people talked about war but never fought one. You forgot what it meant to face an enemy who could actually hurt you." "And you never forgot," Zorak replied. "That made all the difference." As the Earth Accords were signed, applause filled the hall. Species that had been isolated for centuries now stood united. Technologies that had been suppressed were being shared and improved. The stars, once barriers, had become bridges. President Carter completed her speech with words that would be remembered for generations. The hegemony spent centuries talking about war while we studied how to win one. They debated our fate while we decided theirs. Today we establish a new order, not one built on control and fear, but on freedom and cooperation. The galaxy will be better for it. Outside the hall, the night sky glowed with the lights of visiting ships from dozens of worlds. After thousands of years of isolation enforced by the hegemony, the intelligent species of the galaxy were finally meeting as equals. And it had all begun because a young species called humans had done what no other dared. They had brought war to the hegemony's door and won.